Hello, young writers. It is an honor and a privilege and a joy to have the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Mika, M-I-K-A, Mika Almog. I am an Israeli writer, and I have been telling stories for a long time. Over the years, I've published probably about 150 short stories. I also wrote a book called Anticipation. This is my name and the name of the book in Hebrew. It's a very interesting language, and all of my notes from the writing workshops that I've done. And also I wrote a personal column for 8 years, which meant that every single week for 8 years, I had to come up with a new story to tell my writers. And the topic that I would like to address with you today is the question of beginnings. Where do story ideas come from, and how can we begin to write them? And the first thing that you need to know is that this is challenging and difficult for everyone. No one, not even your favorite, most talented, most prolific writer in the world has ever simply sat down and written their story start to finish, no problem whatsoever. We all have a difficulty getting started. So today what I would like to do is suggest 3 exercises that you can use either on your own or with friends or with your family or in a writing group in order to both get ideas for stories and in order to begin writing them. So the 3 exercises that I would like to discuss with you today, the first one is called Go Shopping. The second one is called The 1-Inch Frame. And the third is called What Do I Have in My Hand? So the first idea, go shopping, has to do with training ourselves as writers to see the world and approach the world as a market of ideas. Okay? So what we want to do is train our ears and train our eyes and our ears and our hearts and our minds to absorb stories all around us. So when I was younger, everywhere I went, I would carry around a small notebook. Really a small notebook. As you can see, I have a whole pile of these, and I would always have a small notebook and a pen, and in these notebooks I would write down anything that struck me as interesting. Let's say there was someone walking down the street who had an interesting way of walking. I would write a short description of that. Or maybe I was riding the bus to school and I overheard a conversation that 2 people were having behind me. So I would write down that conversation. And it didn't need to be good writing, and it didn't need to be a full story. It was just a way of collecting ideas. And by the way, you should write them down, because we think we will remember things, but we forget very easily. So what I would do is I would write down all of these ideas in my notebook, and when I got home, I would transfer them into my computer, into folders that I still have to this day, called character, place, dialogue, and story idea. And so I would write and I would create a collection of all of these things, a bit of dialogue, an interesting situation, a person who had a very specific characteristic. And over the years, when I was writing a story, if I felt I got stuck, I would go back to these folders and find an interesting way to fill that gap. And another exercise that you can do with these collections once you start collecting them is put them together. Take a bit of dialogue from one place, connect it to a character from another place, place the 2 of them together in a location that you noticed, and see what happens, what story emerges. And even more importantly, what this does is creates an awareness in you. It makes you open to stories. And so I can tell you that over the years, I have written stories based on a tidbit of dialogue that I heard while I was doing my grocery shopping. I have based characters on people that I saw in coffee shops, or, distant relatives who showed up to, one family meeting, and I noticed that they had a specific way of phrasing things. So you become a collector of ideas, and then the stories in the world offer themselves up to you. So you begin to live this way, but you can also do it intentionally. You can take yourself on a story idea trip. You can go to your local market and just eavesdrop. Listen to people talking. Watch the way they move. Notice the interaction between them. How do they approach the sales clerk? Are they patient? Are they impatient? And begin to write these descriptions of people and situations so that you become more acutely aware of the stories that are all around us. At the end of the day, when we write stories, we want to have a better understanding of ourselves and the world we live in. We want to tell the truth about who we are, because that is our desire desire as human beings to gain a better understanding of ourselves and the world. And the best way to begin to do that is to listen to the world, to listen, to watch, to be constantly aware. Another great way to go shopping is to shop your own life and the lives of the ones around you. So you can look and you can say, let me try to remember, what can I shop? What kind of stories can I shop? And maybe you want to sit down and write about the very first day of kindergarten. Or maybe you want to write about the time your family moved and the first day, the first time you walked into your new home and what you thought or felt. Another way to do this is to shop other people's lives for stories. So you may go to your parents or your siblings or your cousins or your friends and maybe people who are older than you and say, can you tell me about your birthday when you were 6 years old? Can you tell me about a significant memory from your childhood? And write them down, okay? And ask these people to be specific, okay? To tell you, try to remember, for example, what they wore, okay, or what they felt. I can tell you that I remember on my first day of first grade, I wore my favorite skirt. It was a denim skirt, and it had a family of elephants on it, daddy elephant, a mommy elephant, and a baby elephant, and I was the only girl wearing a skirt. Everybody, this is in Israel, September is hot, all the other girls were wearing shorts, and I felt so embarrassed by this skirt that I loved so much. And that's a significant emotion, okay? It has to do with a sense of belonging and a sense of being different. So shop the world around you. Keep your eyes, your ears, your mind, and your heart open to the stories that are all around you. And shop your own life and the lives of others for beginnings to stories. And write all of these down and string them together. And find the things where you can find something that is specific and unique, something that draws a picture.